What's this? Tabletop Island, huh? Let's see what this is all about.
Welcome to Tabletop Island. I'm Bernardo, your host, and today we are diving in to finish with our top 40 regular board games of all time. Again, if you haven't checked out my vintage top 50 list, I highly recommend checking that out. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check those out. But without further ado, let's dive into this with number 40. Cash and guns. Do you want to yell at your friends? Do you want to point foam guns at your friends? Do you want to be a mafia leader and just completely turn on your friends and eliminate them with bullets? This is the game to do that. This is a social game that is just an abundance of fun. It is absolutely hilarious, and if you have a big active group that loves being social, this is a good way to kind of introduce them into the hobby. So you have foam guns and characters with their own abilities. The goal is to complete heists to get items such as jewels and gold and all that fun stuff, including money. However, your opponents are trying to get greedy, and by doing so, they are pointing their foam guns, which are required to, at another player. And depending on the number of guns, they decide whether or not they think you're bluffing with a blank bullet or you actually have a bullet. That is for you to decide, and when you betray your friends, they like to betray you back. It is such a hilarious game. It is really active if you guys get really involved in it like we do, but there's a lot of yelling, and I absolutely adore this game for that very reason, and that's why it sits at number 40, Cash and Guns. Number 39, Uno Roboto. This is a hilarious game, and I know what you're thinking, Bernardo, really, you have Uno on this? This is entirely different. This actually came out in 2010, and it is just one that blew me away. Now, what you have is this little robot here. When you start the game, depending on the number of players you're playing with, it will have you say your name into the robot itself. It will call it back to you throughout the game, and you are passing out cards. Much like regular Uno, you play as such. When you place cards, you push it into the top panel of its head, and it allows the next player to know that it's their turn. At any point in time, the robot can go off and say,
What? Full card. Discard any 2 cards.
yeah, it's just so ridiculous. You can create your own house rules, and if you're interested in drinking games, this is probably one of the best drinking games I've ever seen in my life, because you can create the most ridiculous rules. You can change players' names. You can create rules that involve the player's name, screwing them out of certain things. It is absolutely ridiculous. I love this game, and it sits on this list for that very reason. Number 39, Uno Roboto. And I will leave a disclaimer here as well. This game is out of print. It's very hard to find, and it may be on the pricier side. So if you find it at like the $20 to $30 range, I think it's worth that price. Anything higher than that is a ridiculous stretch. But if you love Uno, this is the Uno to get. Number 38, Hive Pocket. Remember how I said there was another pocket game that sat a bit higher than Heads Will Roll? This is that one. This is the only other pocket game, at least that I can think of, that I would love to carry around everywhere I go. I say that would love because, again, with COVID, I haven't really been going a whole lot of places due to the restrictions, but I absolutely love this game. I'm not a big fan of 2-player games. If you guys know me, you know that already, but this is an exception to that. You essentially have your own tiles that have different bugs on them. I'm not a bug person either, trust. So you are placing tiles one by one, and each bug has its own ability. You have things such as the ant who can move across the entire side of the board, and you have grasshoppers that can hop over different tiles, ladybugs that go over top of tiles. It is ridiculous. It is so much fun, and there's so much strategy here because the premise of the game is to surround your opponent's queen bee. It can be with their own tiles and with yours. While you can only move your tiles, you can really set them up to where they partially surround their own piece. So many different things you consider in this game, and I absolutely adore it. There's so many different strategic elements that we've added to it with some of the expansions, so I highly recommend checking those out if you haven't already. And if this sounds like the kind of game for you, and even if it doesn't, and you like abstract strategy games, this is going to be a game to look out for, but that's going to be Hive Pocket. And I'll have a link in the description where you can check out my review. Number 37, Valley of the Vikings. This is my first Haba game on the list, and I love Haba games. If you know my channel very well, you're already aware of that. This game is absolutely amazing. It is a game that is a family-weighted game. It's on the lighter side, so don't expect a whole ton of strategy, but there is some here, and I love it for that very reason, because it also incorporates dexterity. Essentially, you have these kind of player pieces that are hitting a ball to knock down certain pins, almost kind of like bowling or kickball, bowling. There's a lot going on here, but essentially you are trying to hit certain pins to move your tile token ahead on the board. However, there is certain tiles that you can land on that can also affect you, so you want to land specifically and you want to try to knock down certain pins and hope that your opponent doesn't hit certain pins. There's a whole lot to this, but it is a lot of fun. This is one of those games that, while I don't get it out very often, every time I do, all of my game group absolutely loves it, whether they like heavier games or lighter games. It's such an excellent family game, and if you don't have this in your collection and you have children, this is a great game to look at. But that's going to be Valley of the Vikings by Haba Games. I'll have a link in the description where you can check out my review. Number 36, Splash Party. I actually have the Italian version, but it's not English dependent or language dependent, sorry. So it doesn't matter which language you end up getting for this, but it is a small, compact game, and I love it for that very reason. I know it's very simple. I like very simplistic games. You're going to see a lot of them here, but you're also going to see some very complex games, so don't give up on me. I promise. I'll give you something you'll look forward to. But Splash Party is a simplistic game where you have a whole bunch of swimmers around the pool set up randomly at the start of the game. Then you pass out tiles, and randomly the opponent has a character that they're able to control. The goal is to be the last person standing. How do you eliminate characters? Well, each different meeple has a number underneath it. It's from 1 to 3. So you lift up any meeple you want, look at the number, you move it that number of spaces, and if it lands on a spot with another swimmer, you kick them into the pool. You keep doing so until you are the last swimmer standing. It's so much fun. I can't describe it. It's so simplistic, so easy to get to the table, easy to set up, and it fits in this nice compact tin, and I love it for that very reason. And the theme is really wacky. There's not a whole lot going on here, but I promise you, if you like family games and you like party weight games, this is a fun one to bring to the table. And if you have children, this is another one to look at. But I'll have a link in the description if you're interested in more details, so you can check out my review. Number 35, I cheated. Hear me out. I love playing these games side by side, and I couldn't really pick which one I would like more, and I didn't want to put one over the other. I personally don't play these without playing the other one ever since I got Snowman Dice, which is a newer one to the collection, in between both of these. This is my favorite holiday game for the Christmas season as well, both of these combined, but I'm rambling. Essentially, with Roll for Your Life Candyman, this one you have your own Candyman, and you are rolling dice to eliminate other gingerbread, or I said Candyman, sorry, words are hard, gingerbread man, to remove its pieces. Different limbs such as head, hands, torso. Obviously the head's going to be last, but the game is ridiculous. You can also roll to get these specific tiles that protect your character. It's this real-time game where you're consistently rolling dice and everyone's always frantic, and I'll be honest with you, you'll probably be out of breath in this game, and you'll probably also be standing up. I love this game. It's a fantastic family game, and if you don't have very many Christmas games, I not only recommend this one, but also Snowman Dice. Entirely different companies, but the dice have a whole bunch of similarities, and they both grasp that theme that I'm looking for very much. With Snowman Dice, you're rolling all of your dice, again, another real-time game, to try to get certain symbols to stack up your snowman. Then, once you roll an arrow, you push it to the North Pole. The first player to do so wins. However, your opponent can also roll a snowball, and when they do so, they can flick that snowball to knock down your opponent's snowman. And you keep going until someone gets there, and you can keep playing until you get to a certain amount of points. I adore both of these games, and it's really hard to choose. I will say Roll for Your Life Candyman, I did get to the table a little bit more, but I love playing these together, so they're very cheap. If you're interested, I'll leave a link in the description as well, so you can check out my review if you're interested in more details. But that's going to be Roll for Your Life Candyman and Snowman Dice. Number 34, Cube Quest. This is actually probably the first game on my list that is out of print. I think that's ridiculous, and I really wish they would bring this back. Gamewright makes excellent kid games and family weight games, and this is no exception. Imagine crossbows and catapults meets dice flicking, meets abilities. There's so much going here. So I'll break it down a little bit for you. You have an abundance of different dice. It is a 2-player game. Again, not too many on my list here, but with this, you get to select your team. You get to build your team with a certain point system. I believe it's 40. With that point system itself, you are picking out the army you think can protect your king. You are setting up towers of dice to protect your king in the center of your castle, and one by one, you're taking turns to flick one die to knock your opponent's king out of the game to win. Now, sounds easier said than done. However, you have so many different abilities and different things that you can do in the game, such as appear on different sides of the board. You are able to have characters that have different abilities to where if it lands on a certain side on your opponent's side of the field, like the feint side, you roll it. If it's another feint side, then it's removed from the game and they get to capture it. So there's so much going on, so many little pieces of strategy. However, it is a dexterity game, so treat it as such. This game is awesome. I really wish it wasn't out of print, but if you can find a good deal on a copy, I highly recommend this game. That's going to be Cube Quest. Number 33, How to Rob a Bank. There's a few different renditions. One actually has a 3D board, but this game's awesome. It's a programming game where you are either the cop or the robber. Yeah, how to rob a bank, right? You're using cards to program each turn to move through to try to take as much loot and put it into your vehicle. The vehicle moves depending on certain conditions met in the game as well and different cards you play. Now, while you are doing a programming game, everyone gets to see your move. So let's say one player goes first, then the next player, then the cop goes. They get to see everything that you've done previously to try to counter what you've done. Once you play through your entire deck, depending on the number of players that you're playing, then you flip your deck over and you are starting to reveal your different actions. And now you have to decide what's the most optimal way to utilize that action so you don't get captured by the cops. There's alarms that can go off, different things that you can set off. There's just a lot going on here, and for a programming game, I'm not too familiar with a whole lot of them. I think for vintage, Robo Rally is one that's kind of on my list as well, but this one is absolutely amazing. I've gotten this to the table with a lot of individuals who aren't big gamers, and it really did well with them, but there's a lot of strategy if you are a larger gamer, but again, it's a programming game. I know it's not for everyone, but How to Rob a Bank is an excellent addition to your collection if that sounds like the kind of game for you. Number 32, DC Deck Building. This is the only deck builder I truly appreciate. I've played things such as Dominion, but I love the theme of this one and I love how this game plays. I'm big in competitive card gaming and I loved playing games such as Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't play a whole lot of that very much anymore, but this game was a great break away from that, and I know Magic players know this as well. This is a deck building game where you have a starting hero with an ability. You are slowly but surely buying cards from a lineup to improve your decks to not only defeat villains that show up across the game, which can also affect you, but also hurt your opponents. There's a lot of back and forth screwing over, and I'll be honest with you, I am showing the multiverse box because I created my own cube for this game. I'll have a video soon as to my cube because I honestly think there isn't a cube out there that beats mine. I don't say that to be cocky, but a lot of the games that I've seen with this, or cubes I've seen with this, are really slow, and the base game is also relatively slow. If you're new to the game, God forbid, you could be looking at maybe like a 6-hour game just to get to the point of the game. I've built a cube that not only allows you to do everything that's exciting and that I would love to do in a superhero game, but it also does it in the course of an hour. If you're a newer player, maybe an hour and 15. This is an awesome game, and for that very reason, it's on this list. Again, I'll have a link in the description when I do my review, and I'll have a whole lot to show, especially my awesome cube, which I'm excited to show to you guys. But if you're interested in deck building games, this is the one to look out for. I have every expansion, and I'll continue to add to them because it just keeps making my cube that much better. Number 31, Rhino Hero Super Battle. Again, I'm a big fan of Haba, and this game, no exception. If you're familiar with Rhino Hero, it's a lot different. Rhino Hero is just a stacking game with cards that you stack up to the top. This one has a little bit more added to it, and I think it's 1,000 times better than regular Rhino Hero. Essentially, you are playing cards from your stack to build up onto the tower. While you're doing so, at the end of setting up your different level that you add to the game, you're rolling the die to move your hero kind of meeple piece onto one of the planks dependent on the number of levels you're able to move. Sometimes it's 0. That sucks. But essentially you're moving through, and whenever the tower falls down, the player that was on the top of the tower wins. So if the player who is on top of the tower knocks down the tower, everyone else wins. So yes, you don't get to go to the top, knock it down, and win. It doesn't work that way. But this game is so hilarious. I actually own 2 copies because I felt like the base copy didn't get as high as I wanted it to get. We actually got it so tall it hit a chandelier, and it was absolutely amazing. So many laughs, and we were so scared that even so much as a deep breath can knock this whole thing down. And this is just such a ridiculous game. And I love dexterity games, and it's one of my favorite dexterity games of all time, which is why it's on that list at number 31. But again, guys, we're moving on through this list, and I'm excited for you guys to see what comes next with my top 30. And again, it only gets better from here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Me and Volcar really appreciate Volcar and I greatly appreciate it. And it would really help us out if you like, comment, subscribe on this video. And if you're interested, hit that bell icon because that'll let you know when we release our newest video. Monday is going to be our regular board game reviews. Wednesday, our weekly update / talks. And then on Friday is my vintage board game reviews. That is all I have for you guys today. I will see you guys next time. Well, apparently the video doesn't end until Volcar says it ends. So I guess we wait.